Now if you head over to Replit, click on Day 9.2 Dictionary in List, this coding exercise should appear. And you'll see that we actually have the same list that we created at the end of last lesson. This is a list called Travelog, and it logs the countries that we've been to, how many times we visited it, and the cities that we visited while we were there. This is a list of dictionaries which contain a list of cities. There's some heavy nesting going on here. Now, your job is to make sure that this line of code on line 20 and 21 actually work. In order to make it work, you're going to have to write a program. So it's going to be a function that's going to go somewhere in here. And you're going to get it to be able to add new countries, the name, the number of visits, and the cities that you've been to, so that it gets populated in the travel log. And when we print travel log at the end, it should show us all three of these entries. So remember, the goal is not to modify this directly. In fact, I don't want you to touch this part at all. Instead, it should be your function that's going to somehow go through this travel log and add these new pieces of data. Have a think about how you're going to achieve this, and then pause the video and give it a go. Alright, so because we've already defined the name of the function here, in order for our code to actually work and for the tests to go through, we also have to create the function using exactly the same name. So it's called add new country. And then the inputs that it's going to take are the country visited, the times visited, and finally the cities visited. So now that we've created our new function, the next job is to figure out, well, how do we add these pieces of data that's going to be passed in to these parameters and get that into this travel log? So the first thing you need to notice is each of the entries inside the travel log is a dictionary. In order to add to that list, we should probably start off by creating a new dictionary that has all of these pieces of data in it. For example, we could create a new dictionary called new country, which is an empty dictionary, and then we can add each of these pieces of data to the dictionary. So we could say new country, square brackets, and then we give the key that we want to add. So in this case, it would be the key country as a string. And the data or the value that's going to go in that is going to be whatever gets passed into country visited. So now all we have to do is repeat the process for the other keys in the dictionary. So visits is the next one, and that's going to be set equal to the times visited. And finally, we're also going to populate the final key, which is cities. And that is going to be equal to the cities visited. Now, at this point, if you were to print out new country, you should see a dictionary with 3 key value pairs. And the keys will always be the same, but the values will depend on which arguments were passed in when this function was called. So once we have that new country, then we can actually take our travel log. And remember that the travel log is actually at its base a list. So instead of adding to it like we have been doing when we're using a dictionary, in order to add to lists, if you remember, you should probably use the function append. And inside here, we can add a new item to our list. And that new item is, of course, going to be this dictionary called new country. So now if we go ahead and click run, then you can see when travelog gets printed on now line 27, it's now got 3 entries. The first entry is the dictionary for France, the second is the dictionary for Germany, and the last one is the dictionary for Russia. We have now a list with 3 items, each being a dictionary, each with a nested list inside as well. So if you wanted to, you now have a way of keeping track of all the places you've visited. And later on, as we start building out more complex apps and web applications, then you can easily see how logic like this might be really useful if we were building a real-life website for tracking our travels. Have a play around with nesting dictionaries and lists. And once you're happy that you've understood everything that's going on, then head over to the next lesson and we're going to start tackling our final project.